On today's show, we're talking about the battle for center field, some big burger and bam bam bombs, and an outside candidate to make the last spot in the bullpen, doing something that might just make him crack the opening day roster. Talk about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about who the heck should play center field most of the time. We're talking about Jake Burger's big, bad burger bomb, why that's so impressive, what made it so good, and Mark Church having a velocity glow up. Before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. And the Rangers have a bit of a question in center field at this point. Not do they have a center fielder, but who they have as a center fielder. Now, the most obvious candidate to play center field, I think the best overall defensive candidate, if he could play every single day out there, I think it would definitely be Evan Carter. Now, Evan Carter's ceiling as a defensive player, it's not quite the same as Leody Taveras', but where Leody Taveras misses a few too many everyday routine kind of defensive plays, the outstanding plays are the ones that Leody will make, but some of the routine ones just drop by the wayside. Also, offensively, Leody's not providing a whole lot of value at the plate in a way where super-duper elite defenders, he'd have to be about that level of defender, and he's just not quite there. Now, Evan Carter makes fantastic reads out there in center field. He's got very, very good speed. He doesn't have the greatest arm, but it's fine enough for center field. And he's played center field basically his whole life. And it seems like he might be the obvious candidate. But one thing about Evan Carter, I was a little worried when he got scratched from the roster, or from the lineup in today's game. It turns out, according to Bruce Bochy, he's just got a little, quote, crud in his system, which is the general flu nonsense that is going around the Rangers clubhouse right now. That hopefully won't keep him out for too long, but it is not any kind of, back injury, which Evan had been dealing with for the last couple of years. The Rangers are going to be careful with him and give him a little more time off than I think a typical 22-year-old, however old Evan Carter actually is now. Yes, he is going into his age 22 season, doesn't turn 23 until, August or September? We got some time before Evan Carter turns 23. But I think that the everyday center fielder should be Wyatt Langford, and here's why. I don't think Wyatt is going to be the best defensive center field option for the Rangers on opening day. But by the end of the year, he just might be. Because if you remember, heading into camp last year, there were a lot of questions about Wyatt Langford and his defense. Can this guy, play defense at all? Can the Rangers, stomach his bat? Is definitely ready for the big leagues. But that glove, I just don't know if it's there. And he DH'd quite a few games last year, at 25 games. He ended up starting quite a few in left field, actually the vast majority of his games in left field. And early on, there were some growing pains for sure. There were some circuitous routes, but he's such an elite athlete. He's got really great arm strength. He's got elite sprint speed. He's one of the fastest players in baseball. So in the outfield, you can make up a little bit for that with your athleticism, more so than you can in the infield. In the infield, there's a difference between quickness and outright speed. Quickness is that first step, that instinct, that gut reaction, knowing exactly what to do and being able to make that first step, that first twitch really, really quickly. Now, straight up speed is once you get going, just how fast are you going in a straight line, how you're going a longer distance usually. And that's where, Wyatt Langford has that elite speed. Now, just in terms of the reads in the outfield, it definitely took some time to get used to it, but by the end of the year, he was not just a passable defender out there in the outfield, but he was a straight-up good one. And I think Wyatt Langford could be an exceptional defender in a corner. And in terms of how good he could be in center field, well, last year he already played center field quite a bit. 15 games in the big leagues in center field. Now, that was almost as many as he played in college. And the thing about Wyatt Langford that I want to hammer home is how little baseball he's actually played since high school. It has been an astonishingly little amount of baseball that took him from college to the big leagues. I mean, last year he played 134 games in the major leagues. That was one season. And he also spent a couple weeks on the IL with those hamstring issues. And those 134 games, that's as many games as he played in the entirety of his college career, which was 3 seasons. And one of those seasons, he played just 4 games his freshman year. He barely played. He didn't play all that much in the outfield either. I mean, he played 20 games in center field in 3 seasons in college, so I don't know that he played any of those games in center field his freshman year, but he played 20 combined those last 2 seasons in college. He played 105 games in left field last year in the big leagues, 15 in center field, DH 25. In college, he played 20 games in center field, 122 in left field. In the minors, he played 2 games in center field and 32 in left. This guy just has not played that much baseball. The amount of games he's played competitively, in whether that's in the summer league, whether that was in college, whether that is in the minors and the majors combined, since high school, 4 seasons, 358 games. And he's already a very good big leaguer. That is not a whole lot of baseball. And the thing that I have always loved that has made Wyatt Langford so special, it's not just his athleticism. It's not just that he hits the crap out of the baseball. It's not just that he's freaky fast and freaky athletic. It's the adjustments. It's how much better he gets and how fast he does it. I mean, this guy just breezed through the minors. He just had a higher strikeout rate at the lowest level of baseball, the Arizona Complex League. Granted, that was in literally 3 games than he did at any other rate, at any other level. And he went through 4 levels in the span of a couple months. I mean, he's played 47 games in the minors, and 3 of those were this year on a rehab assignment in Round Rock. This guy just breezed through the minors because he makes so many adjustments so quickly. He is getting better so quickly. He has just not played that much baseball, and so seeing how fast he's getting better at all these different things, it's why the ceiling is so incredibly high on Langford. Because he has all the things that you can't teach. The things that stereotypically, the first thing evaluators say is like, well, you can't teach this. You can't teach speed. You can't teach that. You can train it a little bit. You can get a little bit faster. But the top end, end of the scale, super duper crazy fast, you can't teach that or train that in. He's got that. The just supernatural knowing of the strike zone, the discipline to know precisely which pitches are and are not strikes. He has already got that. Him and Evan Carter, both of them have that just preternatural ability to know whether a pitch is going to be a strike or not and make very good swing decisions. He's got those 2 things. And then knowing exactly what he can do with each type of pitch, he's still figuring out how to game plan at the big level. He's still figuring out so many things about the big league level. And he's talking about how, I felt like I did really bad my rookie year in mid-August when his numbers were fine, but he was a 22-year-old rookie. They were fine for a 22-year-old rookie who had spent 200 plate appearances in the minor leagues. They were more than fine, actually. They were actually pretty solid. And he's like, no, I sucked right now. I've sucked this year. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better right now. And then he proceeded to get better right now. And for the last 6 weeks of the season, he just lit the world on fire. Heck, he was the best player in the American League for the final month of the season, his rookie season, where he had played, fewer than, actually, I think at that point he had played more than 300 games of, organized baseball from the point of his high school graduation. But this guy has just played so little. The physical tools are all there. How quickly he gets better, it's all there. The capability to play center field every day is very much there. And also, you're not as worried with his durability. With Mike Trout, we finally seen him move off of center field. Now, Wyatt Langford is closer to the physique of Mike Trout than Evan Carter is, but a lot of moving Mike Trout off of center field, moving him to a corner outfield, moving him to right field, it has to do with taking some of that wear and tear off the body. there are fewer, you're running less. You're, chasing after balls less. That's just doing a whole lot less wear and tear on your body if you're in a corner versus in center field. Because in center field, you're running after almost every ball. Whereas if you're in a corner and there's a ball hit, down the line in right field, if you're playing in left field, then you're not worried about that ball. You're not doing much of anything. Maybe you'll saunter over and kind of help out, but it's not, putting as much stress and strain on your body. And for Evan Carter, they're having to be very careful about, how much he's playing, how often he's playing, how, they're treating that back so that his condition can go into remission so that he can, have a normal life and major league career. So this year, Evan Grant talked about targeting somewhere between 100 and 120 games. If he's playing center field, those games will take a little bit more of a toll on him. And if he's playing in left field where, he doesn't have the great arm strength where Wyatt Langford does, it's a little bonus thing in center field. It's not necessary. In right field, it is more necessary to have that big old arm. But if you got, a fringy average arm, then putting you in left field is fine. And if you got that level of speed and make those level of reads in a corner outfield, then that is just making your defense all that much better. I think that Evan Carter's back might be a little bit safer playing every day in a corner. Now, if you get to the point where the condition goes into remission and, Evan Carter's able to play a whole 150, 160 games in a season, then you start to revisit that discussion of should we put Wyatt Langford there or should we put Evan Carter there? But Wyatt Langford can do it. He can do it, and I think he can do it at least fine to start the season. And I think eventually he could be more than just fine, but fantastic. And I think for the overall value of a player like that, who's got that kind of offensive upside, if you're also playing him in center field every day, that's when it takes him from, very good all-star to potential MVP type of candidate. And that's the kind of ceiling we see on Wyatt Langford. And just remembering how little baseball he's played and how much better he's gotten, how quickly, makes me think, why can't this guy play center field every day? Coming up, we're talking about the first burger bomb of the spring, why it's so important, and Sebastian Walcott, Rangers' top prospect, getting his first home run of the spring, and a little bit about Mark Church. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. When the games tip off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get it on than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're talking a little bit about Jake Berger, what he's bringing to this Rangers offense a little later on in the show, and right now he's got some pretty decent odds in terms of just Rangers, the second best odds to lead Major League Baseball in home runs. He's got the, tied for the 23rd best odds at plus 6,500 to hit the most home runs in Major League Baseball this season, behind only Corey Seager, who's at 17th best odds at plus 5,000 to lead the majors in home runs this season. And another Ranger on this list we just talked about, Wyatt Langford, right now plus 18,000 to lead the majors in home runs this year, tied with O'Neal Cruz, with John Kinsey Noel, with Tristan Casas, and Cody Bellinger. That's some long odds, but for the way Wyatt Langford plays, I mean, who wouldn't want to bet against him? So go check out all the action on FanDuel right now. New FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Shout out to the Everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. I'll be back on Monday's show talking about, hopefully a little bit about this Jack Leiter's second outing of the spring. He'll be pitching in today's game along with Cody Bradford. So go check out that on Monday. I'll be back with whatever happens this weekend. Hopefully some interesting stuff. Before we get off of Wyatt Langford entirely, I had a random tangent that I went on earlier this week. If you're an everydayer, then you maybe do or do not remember me talking about who the heck is the Rangers emergency catcher. And as I was, looking at all these different things about Wyatt Langford, I remembered, Wyatt Langford was a catcher when he went into college. So I'm betting that Wyatt Langford is the Rangers emergency catcher. Just a fun little tangent that I don't know if it was bothering any of you, but it was bothering me, and it circled back into my head. But anyway, let's look a little bit at this game yesterday. The Rangers shutting out the Mariners, 8-0 win. The Rangers got some big offense, some big bombs from some of their big beefy boys. Well, one big beefy boy and one young, I don't know about beefy, wiry is more of a way to describe Bam Bam Sebastian Walcott. I think eventually he will be quite beefy, but he's still, he's so tall, he's so big, so freakishly athletic. And Jake Berger hit the absolute tarnation out of a baseball. And it was the lead for a home run, his first of the spring, and it was his least hard hit ball of the day. Let's look at this home run though. Oh, there we go. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see where the pitch is. It is a changeup. Hold on. There we go. Nope. There we go. I'm very good at pointing. Totally great at pointing. But it's a changeup, a right-on-right changeup, low and inside. He fouled off the first pitch of the at-bat, a sweeper that just nicked the inside corner. But hitting a home run like this, 105 miles an hour, 408 feet, there was no doubt about it. But it's about 2-3 inches inside off the plate and, at the bottom of the strike zone, right about knee level. And he just yanked that thing. He just absolutely yanked that thing for a home run. And like I said, it was his least hard hit ball of the day. His softest hit ball of the day is a better way to say that. He had a fly out in the second inning that was 108 miles an hour off the bat, and he had a ground out in the fourth inning that was 111 miles an hour off the bat. I mean, this guy just makes incredibly hard contact, and that was something I think I know that I wasn't thinking enough about it, of how hard a contact this guy makes, why this guy is able to be so good while still, not necessarily making the best swing decisions. I mean, his bat speed is in the top 15% of baseball, and now that they've added some of those bat speed numbers for, the 2023 season, or at least after the All-Star break, he was in the top 6% of baseball in terms of his bat speed. He was averaging a fast swing. A fast swing is 75 miles an hour, because that's the I would say even number that they landed on, but, pretty number, whatever that they decided that was a fast swing. So he's swing the baseball bat very, very hard. And he impacts the baseball at just such an incredibly high level that a little bit better swing decisions, I think, will help this guy out tremendously. I mean, he's already a very, very good offensive player. I mean, last year hitting 29 home runs, 34 the year before that. I mean, he slugged over 500 in 2023. The OPS was just 761 last year, because the on base is, right around the 300-ish mark. I mean, it was 301 last year. He hits about 250. But the way that he impacts the baseball is just so impressive. And it was less impressive when this guy was maybe the best offensive player on his team on the 2023 Chicago White Sox, or no, depends on the year that Robert was having, but he's up there. He was either the best or second best hitter on each of the teams that he's been on the last couple of years, the first couple of years that he's actually been an everyday player. It's the first year he's had more than 200 plate appearances as a big leaguer. And, when you're the best hitter on your team, you're pitched a little bit differently. But this guy is not going to be the best hitter on the Rangers in 2025. I don't think. It's possible, but not likely. A whole lot of things would have to go right for Jake Burger and wrong for everybody else for that to be the case, because Corey Seager is almost assuredly going to be the best hitter on the Rangers. But if this guy's hitting in the bottom third of your order, which he might be, maybe he'll be somewhere in the middle third, but he'll probably be the Rangers' fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe seventh best hitter. And if this guy is that low in your order, providing that much more depth in your Rangers order of, you get to the bottom third of most batting orders, you're like, okay, all right, we got somebody who's, not too much of a threat. You can kind of, go at guys and try and save your pitch counts and, not be too worried. Or if some of the guys in the middle third of your order are, getting on base, and the guys hitting 7th, 8th, 9th are coming up in clutch situations, in most batting orders, you're like, okay, well, as a pitcher, I'm probably going to get out of this because these guys aren't that good. But when you have a Jake Burger hitting 6th or 7th or even 8th, as he might possibly be at some points in this season, it just shows you the depth of this lineup, the impact that this guy can make. And I think with this Rangers offense, this hitting coaching staff, they can help coach in some better swing decisions for Jake Burger, because the raw tools, the raw pop, the bat speed, the just sheer strength, he's always going to hit, minimum of 25 homers if he's healthy. That's just the kind of impact that he makes on the baseball. He just hits baseballs at a normal trajectory like himself. He's going to, walk into 30 home runs, 35 home runs, maybe even 40 home runs. This guy just has legit top end of the scale power. And it is just such an impressive thing to see that he makes this hard at contact this often. And, he's not a slow guy. He's a big, beefy boy, but he's not slow. I mean, defensively, he's getting a little bit better at first, playing it more consistently. But you look at his sprint speed last year; it's in the top half of baseball. 65th percentile, not Wyatt Langford speed, but he's not just some slow Benji Molina out there. No offense to Benji Molina, ever intended. That triple was one of the greatest, most ridiculous baseball moments I remember watching live. Was watching Benji Molina run out there on a triple. But Jake Burger he's not a burner, but he's above average speed. I mean, he had a higher average sprint speed last year than Adolis Garcia, which is, I think, a little bit to do with Adolis Garcia's dueling knee injuries last year. I don't know if that'll be the case this year, but Burger's a very good player, and as annoyed as I was with the Rangers trading Nathaniel Lowe, mainly because they did it right after I recorded a podcast saying why they aren't going to do it even after the Burger trade, I think that this is another good addition by the Rangers. It's something that CY and I think John Daniels before him kind of found a market inefficiency. Baseball right now does not value first basemen. They're good players. Jake Burger and Nathaniel Lowe are both good players. Not MVP level first baseman, because there's really not that many of those in baseball. And not the hyper elite, first baseman. But I think that the general population values him a little bit less than the Rangers do. So the Rangers didn't have to give up an aggressive trade package to go get a guy with 4 years of control. I mean, it is very similar to the Nathaniel Lowe trade. Because at the time I was thinking, why are you doing this? You don't really need this. But Nathaniel Lowe ended up being a really good player for the Rangers for several years. And it didn't cost that much in terms of prospect capital or even in terms of finances until this year. That's when Nathaniel Lowe started making, a little bit more money. And that's why the Rangers ended up, shifting off and, trying to do this whole thing again. And I think that they found another, market inefficiency with the value of a first baseman in Jake Burger at that point in his career, where the Rangers see something in him that, even if they don't unlock some new level of Jake Burger, some new level of offense of him walking just a little bit more, striking out just a little bit less, and still putting up those crazy power numbers, even if they don't, I still think this was a home run trade for them and a big home run for Jake Burger. Speaking of home runs, we talk a little bit about Sebastian Walcott, his impressive spring so far, and Mark Church lighting up the radar gun, why that's so important for him and this Rangers bullpen, right after this. Now, normally I don't like to dwell on random spring training home runs. There's not a whole lot you can learn. With Jake Burger's, impacting the baseball that far in off the plate, it's not a ball that a whole lot of players get to, let alone one that many players could barrel. And it just kind of highlights the player that Jake Burger is. And for Sebastian Walcott's home run, it was 107 miles an hour off the bat. I mean, he had a couple of really high exit velocities in yesterday's game. He had 102 mile an hour ground out, 107 mile an hour home run, his first home run of the spring. And just seeing that kid go yard. I mean, seeing your top prospect, who still doesn't turn 18 for another 2.5, 3 weeks, maybe not quite 3 weeks at this point, but still seeing him go yard in a big league game, seeing him get into some of these big league games, I kind of wish that he would get some more plate appearances, just get some more time at the big league level. He's really starting to impress, some of the Rangers personnel that are up at the big league level, seeing this kid in person for the first time of like, oh, okay, this is the kind of kid, this is the kind of player that this kid can be. I mean, he's 6'4", listed at 190 pounds. I bet he's a little bit more than that now, but still not really as filled out as eventually he can be. He's still playing some shortstop. He's still playing some third base. I'd imagine this is the year that they start to get a little bit of a look at him in right field, because he's probably not cracking the big leagues this year. It's an outside shot. I'd say maybe a 5% chance or so, just given where the Rangers are at this point in their contention cycle and where Sebastian Walcott is. Now, he might come in and blow the doors off of AA and end up in AAA by mid-season and then, knocking on just a big league cup of coffee in September. I think that's the only scenario where Sebastian Walcott gets into a big league game this year. But it's not out of the question, because this guy is so supremely talented and he puts up so many incredibly, impressive exit velocities for being so young. I mean, he's putting exit velocities in the 110, 115-ish range, and he's doing it while being so young and still has a lot of room to add more muscle and more, beef for lack of a better term. And him doing this at such a young age in a big league spring training game. I can't remember exactly who he hit that home run off of. Let me go scroll down and look it up real quick. I think it was Mr. File, Dylan File, who has been a big leaguer. Nope, has not been a big leaguer. Has been in AAA at points. Last year spent time between Amarillo and the PCL at RNO, which I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly where that is, but he also spent the whole 2022 season in Nashville. So, a fringe, almost big leaguer, getting a big old home run off of him has got to feel good for Sebastian Walcott. And you know who else has got to feel good after that game yesterday is Mark Church, who was absolutely lighting up the radar gun to the point where the top 5 fastest pitches, if you look at the StatCast game day, look at this. If you're watching on YouTube, right up here on the left side of your screen. The 5 fastest pitches thrown in that game were all thrown by Mark Church, topping out at 99 miles per hour. This is thrown hard. 99.4 miles an hour. And then he had another one at 98.3. This guy was absolutely lighting up the radar gun in a way that he really hasn't done as much before. He has been up there in the mid 90s, averaging around 96 miles an hour with that fastball. But if it starts averaging 98 miles an hour on the regular, like it was in yesterday's game, that is a head-turning, eye-turning kind of a deal. That's an important thing for Mark Church. This is something that I have said multiple times throughout the spring training. The one thing that this Rangers bullpen doesn't have, I think they've got a lot of really good pitchers out there. I think Chris Martin is going to be very good if he's their closer. That's more than fine. They've got some funk. They've got some spin. They've got some guys who can attack lefties and righties. They've got a lot of guys who can go multiple innings. But the one thing they don't really have is velocity. And I think eventually we'll see some Skylar Hales in there. He's got some velocity averaging, 96, can touch all the way in the triple digits. Mark Church, if he starts averaging 98 miles an hour, yesterday, the top pitch was 99.4 miles an hour. His yearly average from the one inning he pitched in the big leagues last year was 96.4 miles an hour with the fastball. It was up 1.2 miles an hour. And the slider was up 3 miles an hour. It was averaging 90 in that game versus 87. That makes a big old difference because that slider is honestly his best pitch. And if you have that elite slider, plus that four-seamer, plus he's also apparently starting to work a little bit on a third pitch, maybe a splinker. There was a big feature in the Dallas Morning News that Evan Grant wrote about Black History Month, and Mark Church being one of the 2 black pitchers that the Rangers have that will probably be spending a decent chunk of time in the majors for the Rangers this year, and how rare black players are, American black players are in this game, and especially how rare black pitchers are in this game. And the Rangers having 2 guys from around the same area in Georgia, how they've bonded and helped each other grow and learn, and just seeing this kind of development from Mark Church makes me really excited for me. He's a guy who I was already really excited about his future and how he could help this Rangers pen, and not just his future, but his present, because he might crack the Rangers opening day roster. He keeps throwing like this. He looked fantastic in this one. He got 5 whiffs, which was much more than anybody else. He had a 63% whiff rate. He only had 8 swings at his pitches of the 14 that he threw, 5 swings and misses. All of those were coming on the fastball, which is his weaker pitch. He only threw 2 sliders in this game. And he was just living on that fastball in the upper 90s, not just mid 90s. You're averaging 98, 97.6 miles an hour. That's the upper 90s for sure. That is a big development. Can he maintain that velocity? Can he, repeat that performance of, averaging 97, 98 miles an hour with the fastball? Not entirely sure, but you pair that with the kind of breaking balls that he snaps off. That is a really good pitcher, and it's going to be really hard for the Rangers to leave him off of their big league roster come opening day. But just a couple more notes from this game. Going out there and seeing another start from Tyler Mahle. He looked fine, more than fine. There's not a whole lot to be said. His velocity was down. He was building up just a little bit in this game. Didn't get a whole lot of swing and miss, but, he is not a guy who lives off of the swing and miss. 3 innings of no nonsense work. Good stuff from him. The Rangers got a really good outing from Caleb Bouchley. Bushley, I believe. 2 perfect innings of 4 strikeout work. Perfect means no walks, no hits, so not a whole lot of base runners from the Mariners in this one, which feels like a thing we'll be saying about the Seattle Mariners a lot this year. It's something we said a lot about the Seattle Mariners last year and also the year before. I mean, I thought they'd do a little bit more to fix their offense or just do much of anything this offseason. They signed, I believe, 1 free agent, which was just bringing back their second baseman who underperformed in Jorge Polanco. So, I don't know. Maybe Julio Rodriguez will bounce back. Maybe he won't. Maybe getting a full season of Randy Rose. Randy will make them better offensively. But of the 2 teams that the Rangers are contending against in the AL West, obviously more worried about the Astros because they're just a better team overall. But I don't see this Mariners offense being scary enough, despite their incredibly scary and terrifyingly good starting pitching staff and honestly bullpen as well. You can never score runs against the Mariners, but it doesn't matter because they can't score runs against you. And seeing a couple of 3 shutout innings from Tyler Mahle, seeing a shutout inning from Walter Pennington, a couple innings from Adrian Hauser, and this big ol' inning from Mark Church. I'm really excited for the developments, mainly of Mark Church. That was the main takeaway from the Rangers pitching in this shutout against the split squad Mariners. But that's going to do it for this week's shows. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.